Hi, this is Randall here in Texas.
And I'm Matt here in Michigan. Today, Randall and I are reviewing a movie that we had hoped to have gotten to before the pandemic, but the movie got pushed back. We're happy to watch it now. It is A Quiet Place Part 2. It stars Emily Blunt, Millicent Simmons, Killian Murphy, and Noah Jupe. It is written and directed by John Krasinski. He also directed the first Quiet Place movie, as well as The Howlers, but many people know him from The Office and the Jack Ryan series. Now, before we go any further, if you like this review, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Also, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell and get notifications about our latest videos.
In A Quiet Place Part 2, we find that it starts right at the end of the events of the first film and follows the Abbott family as they move on from their house after the death of father and husband Lee Abbott. It had a $61 million budget and, as of this recording, has made back more than that. It's $93.1 million. Has been very well received by critics and audiences at this point. We also did a review of the first Quiet Place, so make sure to go check that out if you haven't already seen it and you want to get maybe a little bit caught up. Matt, what'd you think of A Quiet Place Part 2?
I thought this was a pretty good movie, and the main reason is I think like the core element of some of our characters hit just enough for me. I'm talking specifically about Millicent's character. I think she was done well enough that I actually cared about like her character throughout, even though some of the other characters I didn't really care about as much in this movie. And I admit some of the part that we like about like Millicent is what we established in the first movie. So I'm not sure how it would all stack up or have as much impact if we hadn't seen that first movie. Randall, what about you?
Yeah, if you hadn't seen the first movie, this one would not make that much sense. It literally follows right on the heels of that first, ending, 100%. But at the same time, I thought I just watched this movie already. This hits on all of the same beats as the original film, almost like part for part, character for character. Just insert Murphy's character in place of Krasinski's character. That was kind of boring to me, in all honesty. A lot of the criticisms that I have of the first film in our review are the same criticisms I have of this one. So go watch that. Okay, review done.
Now, before we're going further, Randall and I are going to be discussing spoilers in this film since it's been out for a couple weeks now by the time this review comes out. So, this is your warning. If you have not seen A Quiet Place Part 2, go watch the film and come back. But now, Randall and I are going to get into some spoilers about this film. Yeah, Randall, I agree about that too. So, one of the things I guess I do like about this film is we have a lot of nods to the first film too, even though it's not just following the storyline, but kind of like, hey, remember this that happened in the first film, like just showing like the aftermath. I'm talking specifically about, we get the nail that's in like the boards downstairs, and we also get like, the hole that's coming out of the silo and stuff. So there's quite a bit of winks and nods to like, hey, if you haven't seen the first movie in a while, remember that this happened. Hey, remember that this happened.
Yeah, there definitely are, but those aren't what I. Those things don't bother me. The winks and the nods, those are cute and those are fun. What bothers me is Emily Blunt's character does exactly the same thing in this, the protective mother thing. Although I was a little bit put off by the fact that she just had a baby and she's like already moving around. I'm like, I've seen women who have just had babies and they're not doing that. The brother character who's played by Noah has the exact same, like, we don't really care for him. He does something stupid and that leads to the family being put in danger. I'm like, that's exactly what happened in the first film. His character hasn't learned anything. He hasn't gotten better. At least Millicent's character, like you had mentioned, you see this growth of her character. That's nice. She's the standout of the film, unless you don't care about that character from the first film, basically.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. And that's why for me it at least worked, because I did really care about, Millicent and, her character with, John Krasinski's character in the first film too. And then we have her relationship with Emmett, which, Emmett isn't her dad, and there's a lot of like comparison in this film where it's kind of like, yeah, you're not making the decisions my dad does, you're a lesser person. And we get a lot of Emmett, internalizing that too. Like, him coming to realization like, no, I'm not like your dad, and a lot of decisions I make aren't right. Especially like when we get to like the island, which, oh man, I wasn't a huge fan of the island kind of thing, or what stuff that was going on the island, or how it's been just, I guess it's been secluded because no boats with aliens has ever bumped into the island before. But yeah, for me, it's just kind of like he gets that realization there where he comes over. It's like, wow, if I had kept pushing or whatever, maybe I would have found this island and maybe I could have, saved my wife.
As much as like Emmett's character and Killian's like portrayal of that character is really really good, the the constant like you're not as good as my dad was, or you're and all of this friction between them, like, but where's all of that friction coming from? They have this small look back of like the day one, the incursion, or whatever the heck you want to call it, where they finally tell the audience, oh yeah, these are definitely aliens, basically, or something from outer space. These characters are interacting. You have her father interacting with this character of Emmett, and they're getting along fine. They don't seem to have any friction. But whatever happened between then and now, it's like all of a sudden we're just supposed to know that there was some friction going on and what it is. No, I didn't like that.
To me, what I kind of saw it as was at the point where it's like, hey, like my dad put signals out and stuff, and like you never came. I think part of this movie is like, are we like stronger together or like apart kind of thing. I think they, the Abbott family was kind of like, hey, maybe we're like stronger together. Maybe if you, had came for us or whatever to her home, like you saw that we were live and stuff, maybe we could have done stuff together. But at the same time, too, this movie, like all of our characters are separate a lot. And one of the things that was kind of weird, I mean, granted, I guess you don't want to have like back and forth too much this movie, but when bad stuff happens, it all happens to everyone at the same time, even though they're completely apart from each other. So it isn't like, hey, bad things are happening even though we're on like the same farm. We're completely different parts of the movie, and yet the bad stuff is happening to each one of our characters at the same time and getting resolved at the same time, even though it's differently, some connected but sometimes not. That was one of the other things about this movie. I'm just kind of like, oh my goodness.
Now I'm going to get into the conspiratorial side of this this thing, where you were talking about the island and the aliens and how none of them have ever seemingly bumped into it before. Yeah, which is, kind of true, I guess, from some perspective. Like, these aliens, I've never liked these monsters. I didn't like them in the original because I'm like, the US military or some military would easily be able to figure out a weakness for, a monster that has hypersensitive hearing, basically. Oh, they can hear really well. Well, maybe we could take advantage of that. Well, that's still true in this one, basically. When you see these aliens kind of coming down on whatever they are, ships, asteroids, whatever they are, however they get to Earth, like, there's no way there's enough of them to, like, inundate the entire population. Because if that's how they crash into Earth, they would have decimated Earth. And yep, I'm now being too serious about a monster movie, as per typical. I'm like, well, are these ground soldiers? Because they seem to just kill indiscriminately. They're not killing humans for food. They don't hunt rabbits and deer and birds and other things that make noise. They only come after human noises. That's just too convenient to me. I get the feeling that I just don't like monster movies very much.
John Krasinski said that this was never meant to be like multiple movies. He just had the idea for like the first movie, and now he's like building on to more. So I'll be interested to see if we get like a third one in this series, because it seems like there could be more story to tell about this, but I don't know if they'll really address that stuff as much. So yes, I agree. I wasn't a big fan of how like the monsters and stuff like that were introduced and like the intro, and then we just see them as these like sound effect killers or whatever.
So one of the things I was saying when I was going on my conspiracy theory thing is like, all right, are these alien ground troops? Are there more sophisticated kind of like leaders coming after them? Because the way that they go about the systemic like destruction of like humans, specifically humans, just just rubs me raw, basically. Like, it doesn't weird. And then the physics behind most monster movies is just stupid. These are kind of like armor plated skinned aliens that are only like can get them when they open their super sensitive hearing up. But at the same time, I mean, Emily Blunt like blows up an oxygen canister next to one, and like it's engulfed in flames and everything, and it just walks out, and I'm like, no, no, that's not how physics works, you know? I don't want to say I hate monster movies. Like, I like Pacific Rim and stuff because it, even if it kind of plays loose with physics, at least there's some semblance of physics. When they completely throw it out the window, like they do in A Quiet Place Part 2, and like the King Kong and Godzilla franchise where physics just stop mattering, that bugs me. Bugs me a lot.
This is one of those movies where I'd say, like, when I was watching it and stuff, I enjoyed it for the most part. It's one of those that, as you sit on it more and you go back, you start actually thinking about the movie and, like, dissecting the movie a little bit more. It's kind of like, you know what? Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that part kind of thing. Does that really make sense? Does that really go together? Some of the things I did enjoy about this movie, I mean, big part of these monsters, of course, is, like, sound. And that's how they find humans and different stuff. And I think this movie does a pretty good job of, using sound elements in it. Sound plays a big role in this. And a lot of times they completely take the sound out of this movie to add a different type of tension. One of my favorite, I think one of the like most tension parts was near the end. And you see like their characters kind of like stepping over something, and you see a whole bunch of objects that she could just like knock over with her foot and could just alert the aliens to where she is kind of thing. And it's like really slow go, like, oh, is she gonna hit that? Is she gonna hit that? Is she gonna hit that kind of thing? To me, that was one of the better tension ones. And just knowing about sound by actually like a visual representation attention, I thought was pretty good. So that I think was one of the positives I had about this film.
Yes, I shouldn't just be a negative nanny about it. I should tell you there are things about this film that I did like. I enjoyed the cinematography. I did enjoy some of the attention to detail that goes on, although that goes out the window a bit sometimes. But I enjoyed the portrayals of the characters. They all do and act as you would expect them to act, which is nice and refreshing. And we get more and more in depth with how Millicent's character is actually this very bright, intelligent, person. She's obviously this deaf character, deaf actress, to be honest, and she's got to work in this world where everyone else is able to hear and has all of their senses, and then the filmmaking, like you said, flips it and says, well, there's going to be some scenes from her perspective where you can't hear anything. And it's almost like, okay, this is how she feels. This is the terror that she feels. That's done really, really well.
Oh yeah, for sure. You definitely like movies that kind of puts you, the audience, into like a character's perspective and everything. And that's one of the things I think it did really well. And part of you like movies that kind of end good, and I kind of like the idea of like, all right, the adults, they're kind of like broken a little bit, and they're like functioning with what the world's lacking kind of thing. And this movie kind of ends with like a passing of the torch where we get the younger generation taking charge. Kind of like, you know what, this is our world. We're going to decide what we want to do with this world kind of thing now. And I liked that part of the film. And that's part of why I'm wondering, like, hey, third movie, this looks like it could be setting up for one.
But you're right. I do like movies that end happy. It's every once in a while you meet a good movie that just ends kind of sad and dour, your Empire Strikes Back. But then at the same time, I'm like, nope. The way that the original trilogy ends with everyone being happy and celebrations, Empire defeated for the most part, that just leaves a nice warm feeling in you, and you're done. Excellent. Sometimes some filmmakers need to leave well enough alone, but I do sense, like you said, and as has been reported, probably a third movie on the way.
Yeah, I think Jared Randall, whether it's a happy ending or a sad ending, we just like endings that are earned. And I don't know, for me, I think this ending feels a bit earned. Like we were actually building up to this. When we just bring up endings that come out left field, it's just kind of like, oh my goodness.
Yep, definitely. This is the conclusion to the first movie. In fact, you could kind of just put these together and they wouldn't even be separate movies. It'd just be one long movie, and it would all make sense.
Yeah, and kind of hitting on that point you were saying earlier, I think you need to see the first movie. if you're just coming into the second movie without seeing the first one, I don't think you're really going to enjoy it all that much. And I think that kind of goes like with your saying, like, this is like the first one, the second one, this is kind of like one story together a bit.
Well, I agree 100%, but we want to know what you guys think of The Quiet Place Part 2. It's been out for a while now. Let us know if you've seen it and what you guys think. Are we completely wrong? Because usually people tell me I'm wrong about things. But, let us know down in the comments. We also have other things on our YouTube page that you can check out. Go look at our new movie reviews, our flashback movie reviews, some television series reviews, and of course, deeper dive discussions with our call-up episodes.
We also have a Facebook page. Be sure to check that out. We post a lot of stuff about our fandoms and also some new entertainment stuff. We also post a day before our videos come out to let you know what the next topic's going to be. And be sure to put us on your calendar. New videos come out every Monday and Thursday. For now, I'm Matt here in Michigan. Have a good day.
And I'm Randall here in Texas. I'll see everyone next time.
Next time on No Market Media. Please consider checking out some of our other videos.